I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with anything else. But we were talking about Isaac, and he likes to go down the slide.
Yeah.
And so Carly picks him up from work and brings him into the office. And so I'm like, Isaac, let's go up the slide, dude. All right, let's go down the slide. So he kind of looked at me for a second. I'm like, come on. And so Carly's like, go to slide. And so he takes off, and he looks at me again as we're going up the stairs. I'm like,
are you sure about this, dude?
Yeah. So I'm coming on, and then we get up to the top of the stairs of the slide. And I'm like, go ahead, dude. Like, go. Well, he looks at me. He sits down in the slide. And then he turns around backwards, head first on his back.
Yeah.
He waved at me and then pressed off. And dude just took off down the slide.
I love it, man.
He's a wild animal.
Okay.
Dude. You weren't lying about having no fear.
So, no, wait. Bro. So I didn't know that's what he did. And so I don't know if y'all have ever been on this curly
it disappears. You can't see him, right? All the time.
I went down
sometimes
that
my
thing.
kids do it too.
I got shocked 75 times going down that thing. And then
my
stuck.
goodness.
I couldn't move. And so I'm like thinking that homie's hurt at the bottom of the slide. I get down. He's already up the stairs again.
Yep.
I race up to the stairs. He lays back down, head first, on his back, chunks the deuce, and is down again. I'm like,
I love it, man.
Dude,
I love it.
I can't.
The peace sign.
Yeah, I can't just.
On video.
Whatever. I can't. So props to Isaac for
he's
going
getting it,
down
man.
the
That's awesome.
slide.
That's awesome.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Every Dad Podcast. As you can tell, we got a special guest, Jacob Parker. We'll introduce him in just a minute, but we got Blake Reese, Ty Clark,
Hello.
and I'm Ryan Tucker, and we want to thank you for listening and watching. I do want to say this, though. I was listening to our episode that recently dropped, and let me just say this to our audience. Hey, if you're not watching the intros or watching this video, you may miss some things. So we would encourage you, if you're just listening, go ahead and get on YouTube and watch it. It changes the game a little bit whenever you watch it. So anyway, how's life, boys? Everything good?
Good.
Good?
Life is great.
Well, we're just going to go ahead and jump in. We're going to go ahead and jump in. Jacob Parker, man, welcome to the Every Dad Podcast.
I appreciate y'all having me,
Glad
man.
to have you.
Appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, you got a fresh haircut.
It's an honor to be here, man. You guys are famous.
Is that a brand new shirt?
It is. Marshalls. Shout out Marshalls.
And you
PCB.
On the beach,
didn't wear your Hey Dudes.
I did not wear my Hey
I
Dudes.
told you I was going to make fun of you if you wore Hey
I was
Dudes.
going to wear camo Crocs, but I changed
Oh,
my mind.
my goodness. No.
And this is just, if someone wanted a pair of camo Crocs, not that I do, there might be some listeners on there.
Blake might know.
Where would I get some camo Crocs?
Academy,
It's like
Bass
Academy
Pro
Sports,
shops.
baby. That's the only place.
Academy Sports.
Yeah.
Bass Pro's pretty good, but that's a long drive.
If you rolled into the office with camo Crocs.
It's a closed-toed shoe.
Dude, there's a Croc store at Pier Park.
There is.
Do you think they have camo?
No.
100%.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, they do. Yes.
We're not. We're not.
Like with the fuzzy round, like the wool in there in case it's cold?
Oh
We
my
live in
gosh.
Florida.
You know, you can get
my
that
answer.
Croc jewelry that they have as well.
Oh.
It's a...
Hey, let's talk about you, Jacob Parker. I'm tired of talking about Croc shoes.
Zibbit. That's what it's called. It took me... It's a Zibbit or a...
No, it's Gibbet.
Gibbet.
Gibbet, yeah.
Gibbets. That's
Gibbet.
it.
It's a gibbet.
Why are we still talking about Crocs? I mean, I'm the one that brought it up. I guess it's my fault. Anyway, hey.
So who are you, Jacob?
Anyway, yeah. So you are a business. Can we tell people the name of the business that you own?
Absolutely.
Straight Stripe, ladies and gentlemen. Straight Stripe. What do you do? What, Ty?
If you've ever seen any parking lot that has crooked spaces, it ain't him. Straightest only.
I appreciate the intro, Ty. That's
straight as
awesome.
stripes.
Straight Stripe.
Yeah, so, man, basically just, parking lot maintenance. Anything to do in parking lots, we take care of it, and it's been a really good business.
And you're married?
Married for coming on 13 years now.
Come on.
And it's been good.
You outpunted your coverage, bro.
I did.
I mean,
I did.
We all did. So I mean,
Yeah,
that's fair.
just
fair
look
game.
around. I mean, we're a bunch of
Bunch of what?
Ugly dudes.
No,
married to
man,
beautiful
I'm
women,
handsome. I'm totally handsome. I'm the
Oh,
face
man.
of this thing.
Take that hat off.
No, we'll
Shave
leave
the
it right. We'll leave it right there where it is. So, and you got a couple kids. How old are your
I
kids?
do. I've got a 9-year-old girl, Ellie, and then a almost 8-year-old boy, Isaac.
So, and honestly, like we want to be able to talk about Isaac. You know, one of the things that we want to do here is like we're just trying to encourage dads to be better dads, you know, and we're just having conversations about that because we think, you know, that probably there's not a lot of dads sitting around a circle or sitting around their living rooms just having intentional conversations about what it means to be a better dad or a better husband, a better leader in the family. So we're just trying to create this space where we can have conversations about what it means to be an effective dad in today's culture. And one of the reasons that we wanted to invite you to this is because of the fact that Isaac, you know, is special needs, and you have to deal with that.
Right.
I'm sure that, you know, you're not the only dad that has to still deal with a
No, of
special
course
needs
not.
kid, right? And I was telling you earlier, like, we don't know what you go through on the daily, right? I'm sure there's some challenges, there's some expectations, there's just things that you have to do differently as a dad with a special needs child. And we all know Isaac. We all love him, and he's a light, dude. Like, he's just wild and crazy, and he can't be stopped, right? But so I want to let you maybe talk about Isaac for a second and what's going on with him.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of give a little backstory of Isaac. You know, when he was born with cerebral palsy.
Okay.
And so kind of what that is an umbrella of all of his disabilities underneath, which was, you know, he was born deaf. He was born with severe neurological issues and damages, and kind of wading through that really began our process of how to parent a kid with special needs. But ultimately, and I know we'll get into this, but it was really what led me and my wife and a lot of my family members to strengthen our faith.
Yeah.
And, you know, for that, looking back on that moment, you know, at the time, man, that was the hardest thing of my life, you know, of having that dream of being a dad of a son, right? And having all those initial expectations and wants and desires, and then being hit with that news of, hey, you know, your son, he's not going to be normal, you know, and that was extremely hard. And that kind of goes back to my testimony of kind of when God truly stepped into my life, you know?
Well, and I remember, I didn't know you very well at the time Isaac was born, but I remember going to the hospital to see you guys. Yeah. And you may not remember that just because of the craziness of the situation, and we didn't really know each other. But I remember going, and you looked defeated.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
right?
I was, man. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, you know, because having your first child, which we have Ellie, she's 9 years old, and just a brilliant girl and a brilliant kid.
Yeah.
You know, and having that kind of expectation of what the next one's going to be. And then being hit with that, at the time, just detrimental news. You know, so I was lost. I was broken. Didn't really know where to go at that moment.
Yeah.
And I do remember that moment you came.
Okay.
You were with Corey Gann, actually.
Yeah.
So shout out Corey Gann. But
no, we don't talk about Corey Gann.
yeah, he's a loser.
Yeah.
But a musician.
Corey's awesome.
Yeah, we love you, Corey.
But yeah, in that moment, I was completely defeated.
Yeah.
How long did you find yourself in that sort of defeated state? And is there like a clear turnaround point for you on when that whole attitude shift, or there was some optimism, like, okay, here's the situation, I can't change it, you know, I've got to do something about it, or even just like a joy of, okay, I still have my son.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, probably going back to the moment that we found out that he was deaf, that was probably my lowest point. And kind of walking through that with my wife, and you guys got to kind of understand, and the audience has got to understand that, yes, I was a believer at the time, and I had faith, but it was so shallow. Man, it was so shallow that I still leaned so heavily upon myself, and you know, I'm a problem solver at heart, you know, and before my relationship exploded into what it is now, I was able to fix everything. And it was in that moment of finding out that he was deaf that I finally turned to God and said, man, I can't do this anymore by myself.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times I've told this a lot, but a lot of times that was the moment that I realized who he was and who I'm not. Right. And that was the moment that really changed everything for me.
And I've seen that transition happen, right? I saw, again, I knew you briefly then, but then as you guys started to, come around the church more, be involved in ministry more, like we just happened to kind of, become pretty good friends in the moment. And just to see that transition happen, like you're not just saying that because you got a mic and a camera in front of you. Like I know that you're saying that because that was really what happened. There was this moment where, you found strength in the Lord. You found strength to lead your family well, lead your wife and your kids well through the process of figuring out, okay, he's deaf now, but he's also has these things, and this is how we have to work it. Yeah. Like, and I'll say this, like, it's fun to watch Isaac. How old did you say Isaac is?
He's about to be 8.
Yeah. So he's 8 years old now, and he has those cochlear implants. And this homie will get mad at you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's fun to watch from a distance.
Yeah.
And so these cochlear implants just kind of stick on his behind his ears. He'll get mad and he'll just take them off and throw them.
Oh yeah, Carly will say something to him. She'll be like, "Hey Isaac, come on, it's time to go to school." And he's like,
Whoop. I'm not trying to hear this right now.
Just cool as a cucumber, dude.
Yeah, he just takes them off and he's like, I'm done. So
yeah.
So one of the things I was thinking about, just kind of as you've been sharing your story, and really as we've been kind of just brainstorming and thinking, kind of towards this time that we're able to have with you, is one, it's kind of a twofold question. So number one, what does just like quality time, on day in, day out, like what does that look like with you and Isaac? Because I'm sure that there's some just amazing special things that you guys are able to share and do, and that are just super unique. So number one, what does that look like? And then number two, this has actually come from, just kind of seeing this, but also knowing I know several other people that are in my life that have children with special needs. So some of the things they've voiced, are just different practical pieces of advice for like trying to build a culture around like how do we include, inclusivity on, Isaac, like what would you, or maybe they're not quite able to articulate that to the people in their life, but that, that you would want them to know, as people are trying to figure out, like, yes, obviously, when you look at Isaac, there's some special needs that are there, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't want to hang out or play or do some of those same things. Like, how do we create that culture?
Yeah, man. So a long time ago.
He's nonverbal, right?
He is completely nonverbal. Okay, he is, like I said, he's almost 8 years old, and he's never said a word in his life. But kind of going back to your question, one thing that Carly and I have done over the years is we've really stopped trying to put limits on him, and
that's
what
dope. That's good.
That's really cool.
and kind of my mindset on that is the more I limited Isaac and things that he was doing, I had to ask myself, am I really limiting Isaac or am I limiting God?
Wow.
And kind of a story behind that is when he was about 2 years old, he was just now sitting up, no walking, no crawling, nothing. And we went to a hospital in Birmingham. And to this day, the doctor there is still my favorite doctor. But we walked into that office and kind of going through the process of where he was and, hey, what's our next step? And I'll never forget him telling us, hey, he will always have a walking device, a wheelchair, something of that nature. And that didn't sit well with me, in that moment. And, every time I tell this story, I do get just slightly emotional, but going back to not limiting God and putting limits on my son, it was 6 months later, we're in that same doctor's office, the same doctor, and he's not walking in, he's riding a bike in.
Come on.
So in that moment, I stopped putting limitations on him and restrictions on him. Anything that we take Ellie to go do, we give Isaac the opportunity to do. And 90% of the time, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
Now, it may look different than other kids.
That dude can go down a slide like nobody
Come on.
in the world.
Right. But, you know, if I'm trying to teach him and I'm trying to show him that he is valuable, you know, and that he is wanted, putting restrictions on him isn't going to help.
Yeah.
Right. So I do, man. I try not to put limitations on him because I want him to feel just as valuable as any other child.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself even encouraging him? Like, forget like putting limitations on him. Are there? I'm sure there's plenty of moments where you're actually trying to push him towards achieving
for
something
sure.
that maybe you can tell he's not even so certain. Like, I don't know if I can even do this.
For sure,
but
man. You know, early on, he didn't have any fear, and that was scary. You know, I'm sure Ty can relate with his 5 boys, but yeah, giving him that extra push and encouragement, and then after he achieves something, seeing just the sheer excitement, man, is like no other. I mean, it's amazing to watch someone that was told he would never walk to be able to climb monkey bars and get down and then run and go jump in the creek behind the house. You know, that's just something that I can't get past. Those are the moments that I see God the most just working in and throughout his life.
Yeah, that dude is nonstop. It's so fun to watch.
So a really funny story about Isaac. So I don't know what it is, and I know for sure that it's me because I will watch him give high fives to every single person, and everyone that knows Isaac says, "Just put your hand out." Like he'll give
he's
you
the
a
high five king, dude.
Not me. Won't do it. Will not give me a high five. So for Vacation Bible School, I had to get all dressed up, do the skits, and then when I did the skits, he would give the character of the skits for Vacation Bible School a high five.
Attaboy.
And so I counted that
There you
as,
go.
as
That's
given.
a
Then
win.
then later on in the day, I'm like, still nothing.
Yeah,
All
that's a win.
Fine, whatever.
So what about your wife? Like as a dad, as a father, as a husband, like you're not doing this on your own.
Sure.
So how are you as the leader of the house, want to be the exceptional dad? Like how are you and Carly? Like what are you doing to help your wife, or what is your wife doing to support? How are you and your wife, this team?
Yeah, so first of all, Carly's a rock star. I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
She's a rock star and has the most patience I've ever seen in any woman. Not just with Isaac, but with me. You know, I'm sure we all can relate with that a little bit. But, yeah, man, I would say, you know, yes, I am the spiritual leader of my house. But, man, she is a phenomenal mother.
Yeah.
And is able to know and understand when he needs help, what he needs help with. And she's phenomenal with talking with his therapists and his teachers. And I can help her with that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, man, she's a
You
rock
go into
star.
dad mode on those those moments, though.
I do,
Like
man.
she has to calm you down a little bit.
I mean, there's times where, you know, I go into that, like you said, that dad mode, that gorilla mode, ready to just tear the
Yeah.
place apart.
Yeah.
You know, but she's kept me calm through the process,
Yeah.
and she has definitely been a cornerstone for our family through this process.
So we're closing in on a 1-year birthday for our first daughter, and I've experienced all the different challenges and things that come with a marriage and trying to adapt. And okay, I've got a kid now. You know, how do we make sure our marriage is a priority and all these different things? So what, especially for your situation and for those who may have a similar kid with special needs, could you walk us through a little bit? I'm curious, like what challenges that brought into your marriage, how it was amplified, how maybe it brought you, closer together, I'm sure in many ways, and what that process was
so
like.
man, there definitely is challenges. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, I've got it all figured out. You know, I'm the special needs dad.
That's like our slogan is we don't have it all figured out.
Right.
So.
You know, it looks that way. But but yeah, it's definitely brought us closer as a family. And I guess the whole thing about it is, and kind of I hit it on at the very beginning, but you know, this has been the biggest blessing for us because it's not only brought us closer as a family, but it strengthened our faith so incredibly much. And me at the very beginning of our marriage, not being the leader I was supposed to be, and not being the dad that I was supposed to be, the husband I was supposed to be, and in that moment of disaster, if you want to call it, God stepping into my life and me finally trusting him, then allowed me to be the spiritual leader that I'm called to be, and be the husband that I'm called to be, and the father I'm called to be. So yeah, it's brought us closer together as a family and to God. It's been incredible.
I think a lot of people might get, when you go through something that's really challenging, it can usually go one of two directions. You're either going to run away from God, or you're going to rely on Him and run closer to Him.
Sure.
And some of Ashley and I's darkest times we're now the most thankful for. And we almost feel awkward saying that out loud sometimes when we talk. But
because in the middle of it, you're not looking at that,
No,
right? Like
no.
you're looking at the moment, and I love the stories of how you look on the backside of that and go, man, dude, God did some phenomenal things in our life.
And just like you're not going to limit your, Isaac and what God can do. You're not going to limit God and what He might be able to do through Isaac.
Right.
It's important for us to not limit God on what He could do through our marriages through some situation like that.
Yeah, and kind of going back to that, man, like in that darkest time, and everybody's had a dark time, right? But in my darkest time, I literally had nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So there wasn't an option there.
Blessed are the poor in spirit.
It was just, man, He showed up like never before.
Yeah. And I love that too, because that's a promise of God. I mean, that's something that He promises, to those that are obedient to Him. He even says, like, Psalm 119:1 says, joyful are those that obey the word of the Lord. And so by being obedient and choosing to have the faith in a moment where I don't understand, not only does my faith grow, but also does the promises, or God makes good on the promise that my life is full of joy. And it doesn't mean that it's always filled with, super, what the world would describe as happiness, but this contentment, this sense of purpose and fulfillment, definitely is a promise of God. So just kind of in closing real quick, like what would be maybe one piece of advice, or like something, because our hope is that through this time we get the opportunity to, have dads hear this that are kind of in some of the same, walks of life and some of the same things. And so maybe to a dad that is currently, maybe hasn't experienced or hasn't squeezed the blessing out of the situation that he's currently facing. Maybe it's a brand new baby and, he's just found out that there's some special needs that are there. Like what advice would you give? What wisdom would you give to somebody that is either currently in your shoes, but maybe doesn't have that blessing piece yet, or is about to and maybe doesn't even know it yet?
Yeah, so I've thought about this a lot, and actually have walked through this with a couple of my friends, and probably the biggest advice, the best wisdom that I could give, and it kind of goes back to how I started this journey was, man, having a son, that initial dream of a son, and all of us dads can relate to this. All you can think about is, hey, being that coach for that t-ball team.
Yeah.
Or, teaching my son how to throw a bait caster on the lake. Or, hey, going out in the backyard and shooting squirrels with our BB guns, right? I had to come to grips that a lot of those things may not happen in my life. And in that moment, and, it's still, I mean, you guys can tell it still bothers me today. In that moment, instead of focusing so much on the desires that I had to do with my son, I turned my focus more to my relationship with God. And what that did is it began to change my desires of teaching him these things that I loved into teaching him the greatest thing that I possibly can, and that's the love of Christ. And I know that sounds, like, oh, you're just saying that, but I got to go back to Isaac's nonverbal. I don't know what all he understands truly of what I tell him, of what I show him, but what I do know that he understands is the love that I show him, the affection that I show him. And that love and affection is not from me. It's Christ flowing through me to him. So being able to show him that and teach him that, and the advice that I would give a dad going through this, man, is, and just look at Jesus.
Dang, we're going to have church on the Every Dad podcast, dude.
Come on.
Goodness gracious. I mean, and honestly, that's why we wanted you on here, man, because I know your story. Like, you are a huge part of the ministry that I'm involved in. Like, I've turned a lot of things over to you, and we're pretty good friends on the outside of that.
Sometimes.
And so so I've seen that growth, and I've seen that testament of how you are relying on God. And I'm telling you right now, like, if you're listening or watching, this is not just words that he's saying. Like, homie's lived this out, and it's absolutely encouraging, right? To be able to, the fact that you said, like, it's a blessing. Most people aren't going to look at having a situation like that in their family and go, it's a blessing. And to be able to hear you say that, to see you guys live that out on the daily, to see you guys put your faith and trust in Jesus, to see the growth that you have, it has been super encouraging, even in my life. Like, I don't know if I ever told you that in person, but
I appreciate it.
yeah, I do. Yeah, you encourage me, right? But no, that's big, man. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Thank you. Thanks for being
No, thank y'all
on.
for having me. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
I
it.
think this story is going to be a blessing to at least somebody, probably, hopefully, a lot of people.
I appreciate it, guys.
If
you
nothing
sharing.
else, it's been to me for sure. I mean, just
Absolutely.
to sit here and to listen, and just to kind of, it's been cool because we've known, and we've known each other, but to just
Sure.
kind of just hear a little bit of that, some of that,
Yeah.
day in and day out, and so it's very, very special. So I appreciate
Well, and like we've always said, like, we're everyday dad type dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like, we live life every day. And,
we're every dad.
Well, but it was part of the sentence, bro.
Well, everyday dad was taken.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, we're dads every day, right?
That's good.
Like, we are.
We'll take that.
That's
I
real
know.
cool.
We'll cut it, But, like, no, it's we're trying to just do life, and it's cool to be able to hear the story. It's cool to be able to, and selfishly be able to, it's on some levels walk with you through this. And even though I don't know all the ins and outs of what you guys do every day, like, being able to be your friend and walk with you through some just some of this growth has been really, really cool. So, yeah, dude, thanks for sharing.
Absolutely,
Thanks for
man. Thank y'all for having me.
being open. And yeah, Jacob Parker, straight stripe, ladies and gentlemen.
Drive them
Appreciate it.
straight. And he
Let's
does.
go.
And you
Stripe
should
'em
too.
straight. There you go.
You should too, baby.
All right, man, that's it. Well, hey, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening right here on the Every Dad podcast. We'll see you soon. Check us out. Spotify, Apple, Instagram, YouTube. Shout out to What's Up Media. Shout out to Debo. Shout out to Solar Coffee Bar right here in Lynn Haven. We'll see you next time.